Okay. So after this call, it'll take us 12 to 24 hours, but we will provide a recording of the conference call. It will be available via a YouTube link. This slide deck will be published with that link added, and we will also publish this slide deck to webs with that link embedded in the slide deck for people to access. So just a little before we get walk through the proposal and hear any questions you might have, just some standards using Teams. If you haven't already, please do mute yourself. If for some reason we do get disconnected, we will rejoin. If you have questions while we're presenting, please feel free to either raise your hand or put your question in chat. Again, we are recording for any late arrivers. If you raise your hand, I'll pause when we're done with that slide and go ahead and have you ask your question while we're still on the slide. If you put a question in chat, I will pause before I move to the next slide and read that question, and we will respond. Please do ensure that you have signed up on WEBS to make sure that you receive the most current information about this procurement. That is our official location of all those materials. And if you are registered on WEBS and registered to receive notifications anytime we post an update, you will receive notification of that. We do also have all the materials posted on our website, but we do not send notifications when we publish on our website. So just a reminder that bidders should only rely on written postings and amendments issued via WEBS. All of our other communications, including this call, are considered unofficial and non-binding. Should you rely on any other communication other than what is published in WEBS, you do so at your own risk and expense. So just a really quick agenda for this call. We have until 11:30 for this call. We will do some introductions of both myself and the other staff on the line. That's Lisa Benavides. We'll walk through the high-level details of the current opportunity, and then the slide deck includes some links to some additional resources. And again, this slide deck will be published in WEBS likely within 24 hours after the end of this meeting. Reminder, questions are allowed as we go. Please feel free to raise your hand or ask your question in chat, and we'll pause and answer at that time. So I am Crescenda. I am our CFO. I am also our contracts administrator for the agency. Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Lisa Benavides. I'm the Human Resources Director for the agency, and I will very likely be the person that you are most in contact with once this contract gets underway.
Thank you. So again, hopefully you are all here to learn some more about our executive recruiter procurement. We are looking for a full service executive recruiter for our deputy director. We anticipate the contract will be through December of 2024. Our goal is to, I believe, Lisa, please correct me if I am misremembering. I believe our goal is to have a deputy director in place at the 1st of January.
That's correct.
Or the first working day, since January 1st is a holiday. In regards to evaluation summary and award, we anticipate awarding one contract as a result of this procurement. And this is just a high-level summary of how we will evaluate responses. The first step will be ensuring that the proposal is responsive. And to be responsive, all the required materials have to be submitted. And we will go over a checklist of the required materials as part of this call. And then if all the materials are submitted, we will mathematically review the cost factors. That is a simple formula. And then a scoring team will review the non-cost factors. That scoring team will be at least 3 individuals that are reviewing all of the proposals in a virtual manner. There will be a maximum of 100 points for steps 2A and 2B. And then moving from there, the state procurement priorities, these will be simple yes, no, but there's up to 15 points available. Part of the bidder certification and bidder information requests that you identify if you are a Washington small business, if you are a certified veteran-owned business, and whether or not you comply with Executive Order 1803. There's a maximum of 15 points available. So with steps 2 and 3, there's a total of 115 points available. At the end of 2 and 3, we'll review, and the top scored small business or veteran-owned businesses will advance to step 4. This procurement is estimated to be less than $150,000. So we are following the state's guidelines for awarding to responsible and responsive small business or veteran-owned businesses. So the top scored businesses will be scheduled to do interviews with the scoring panel, and that will be the scoring panel that reviewed the non-cost factors for evaluation. And then from there, a responsible bidder will be identified, and then at our discretion, the responsibility analysis includes reference checks at our discretion. And then from there, we'll enter into contract negotiations and announce an apparent successful vendor. I do not see any questions in chat or hands raised, so I'm going to move to the next slide. And all of this information we're reviewing today can be found in the proposal documents themselves. I have referenced what parts for these next few sections, because this is just a high-level overview. So our work requirements for the firm itself, we're requiring that you're licensed to do business in Washington State, or that you provide a written intent as part of your proposal that you will become licensed if you're selected as the apparent successful vendor. We're requiring 6 years of recent public sector recruiting, and that your firm has successfully filled at least 5 public sector executive level positions. There's additional details about those requirements in Exhibit D, and you are required to respond to those as part of your non-cost proposal. So please do make sure that you review Exhibit D thoroughly when you're responding. So then the work requirements for the individual, we do recognize that some proposals may identify a single recruiter for us to work with, and some may identify a recruitment team. So the intent here is that for an individual, they have this experience, and if it's a team, that at least one individual on the team has this experience. So the required experience is that the individual has participated in at least 6 public sector recruitments, and that there has been successful fulfillment of at least 2 public sector executive level positions. The desired experience for the individual is that they have experience specific to Washington state agencies, that they understand Washington state agencies and government operations, and that more than 75% of the recent recruitments they've participated in have been successfully filled. Again, there are additional details about that experience, both required and desired, in Exhibit D. So how do you submit a proposal? Please do review all the materials and contract terms. Proposals are due by 11:59 p.m. on August 12th, and they must be sent to contracting@wsgc.wa.gov. Those details are published in the procurement document itself. There is a checklist in the procurement document, but here, just for reference, we require that you complete Exhibits A and B. Those are both Word documents that were published as part of the procurement package, and that you submit a cost submittal in response to Exhibit E and a non-cost submittal in response to Exhibit F. There is no required format for the cost submittal or the non-cost submittal. but there are page limit restrictions for the non-cost submittal. So please do make sure that you're reviewing the Exhibit F when you respond to the non-cost submittal. And then for conditional items, if you review the contract as to form and there are items that you wish to call to our attention and perhaps negotiate, you need to fill that information out on Exhibit H and submit that to us. And then if you are intending on using subcontractors, you're required to submit Exhibit I. Exhibit I is a new requirement if you're using subcontractors as of this calendar year. So please do be aware that if you've responded to these proposals prior to this calendar year, this is a new requirement that was not included in the past. Additionally, for clarity, if you do use subcontractors and you are selected as our apparent successful vendor, there are additional reporting requirements on your behalf through our Access Equity program. And those would be outlined and explained in a final contract. I see no questions or hands. So the question and answer period, we do encourage you to submit those questions if we need to provide additional clarity. Your questions need to be sent to contracting at WSGC as well. We will acknowledge receipt of your questions. So if you do not receive acknowledgement, please reach out again and make sure we get those. We do not answer the questions via email. We consolidate them into one document and publish them in webs and on our website. And sometimes, as you may be familiar, sometimes those question answer items will result in an amendment to our procurement. When that is the case, we will state that in the Q&A document itself. We will answer the question, but also refer you to an amendment that addresses the particular item. Do be aware that if we do post amendments, it is your responsibility to use the most recent form and information published if we do make any amendments. So then our timeline, this is also published in the procurement document itself, but just for clarity, you have until 11:59 p.m. on August 5th to submit questions. We do anticipate having responses to questions out no later than August 7th. Proposals are due at 11:59 p.m. on August 12th. We will begin our evaluations on August 13th, and interviews for those top selected vendors will be August 19th and 20th. So please do mark those days on your calendar. We have pre-identified those days as our team being available, and those are the only 2 days that will be available for interviews. Post-interview, we will begin analysis and negotiation of a contract. And then as soon as we can identify a apparent successful vendor through a successful contract negotiations, we will announce that and the contract will be signed shortly thereafter. For complaints, debriefs, and protests, any complaints about the proposal are due 5 days before any complaints about the procurement are due 5 days before the proposal due date. You can find details about complaints, the complaint process in the procurement document itself, but criteria for complaints are based on only 3 items, and that's that the solicitation unnecessarily restricts competition, that the solicitation evaluation or scoring process is unfair or flawed, or that the solicitation requirements are inadequate or insufficient to prepare a response. So those are the grounds upon which a complaint is submitted. And again, that detail is in the procurement document itself. Debrief requests. Responsive bidders will have 3 days to request after the apparent successful bidder is announced. Please do be aware that if a proposal is submitted and it is found to be non-responsive, we will communicate that it is non-responsive, but those non-responsive proposals are not subject to debrief because they will not be evaluated by a scoring team. Once bidders request a debrief, we schedule those within 3 days of a request unless it's mutually agreed upon to be later than 3 days. And then protests are the last stage of this, and to file a protest, you have to have participated in the debrief. And then, as you can see here, there's one of 3 reasons for a protest, and one is bias, discrimination, or conflict of interest. One is an error in computation of evaluation scores, or a non-compliance with the procedures that we described in the procurement document. My slide says a work request, but in this case, it's the procurement document itself. And then we are required to provide a protest period of no less than 5 business days once the apparent successful vendor is announced. The last slide I have is to provide some additional resources for you all, and these links will be available in the published slide deck. Webs is, again, our official place to post our procurements and any amendments to those procurements. The statewide payee desk, if you're not already registered as a statewide vendor, you would be required to register with the statewide payee desk before we would be able to make any payments. The Washington Apex Accelerator used to be known as the Washington PTAC. It provides no-cost confidential one-on-one technical assistance in all aspects of selling to federal, state, and local governments. It's a resource to help prepare responses to procurements. OMWBE is where you can register and be certified as a small or minority-owned business. The Washington Department of Veterans Affairs is where you register to be a certified veteran-owned business. Department of Revenue is where you would register to, if you're not already registered to do business in Washington. And depending on your business structure, you may also need to work with the Secretary of State. So that is the end of our slide deck and presentation. I do not see any hands raised, and I do not see any questions in chat. Does anyone have any questions? Kate, yes.
Hello, Kate Canapo with Acumen Executive Search. Just a quick question for either one of you. Has the Gaming Commission used executive search services before? And if so, what worked well and what would you like to see have changed?
I have not been here very long, so I'll defer to Lisa.
Well, I've been here 16 years, and in those 16 years, we have not used executive search. The hires for the deputy director, the last time we hired was done by internal HR staff. The time before that, it was an internal hire where we used, again, internal staff to do the recruiting. And then the last 2 times that we've hired an executive director for the agency, those recruitments have also been done by internal staff. So this is the first time in the last 16 years, at least, and probably before that, that we've used executive search services.
Great, thank you.
And Kate, I would offer to you and everyone else on the line, please do read through the non-cost proposal, because we are asking for truly your proposal on how you would do this search. You know, there are certain required items, but we are asking for actual proposals of how you would do this work.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Yatindra. You came off mute, but I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. Am I?
Oh,
Am I
there we
audible
go.
now?
I can hear
Okay.
you now.
Cool. So I just had a small doubt. I see a slide that you displayed about individuals. Is that the same criteria for firms as well, for the teams?
So they are slightly different, and the details of the firm experience versus the individual is not, just a second, I was going to pop the slide back up. So the required experience for the firm is, aside from being licensed to do business in Washington or provide written intent to be licensed, is 6 years of recent public sector recruiting. I don't have the actual document open, but I believe that that's 6 years within the last 10, and then successful fulfillment of at least 5 in some recruitments in a similar time period. For the individuals, it's scaled a little differently, and if you don't mind, I'll pause here for a moment and open the actual document so I can not misquote anything. So please give me just a moment.
Sure.
So for the individual, or an individual on a recruitment team, we're asking for that individual to have participated in 6 public sector recruitments in the last 3 years, and that there was successful fulfillment of at least 2 executive level positions in the last 5 years. So please, there's a difference between those 2 bullet points. And the first one is that participating in 6 public sector recruitments, that isn't required at the executive level, but we do want to see successful fulfillment of at least 2 executive level positions for recruitments they participated in. So the first part of the experience can be a mix of executive and not executive, but the fulfillment is required to be executive level. And that can be, state agencies use a myriad of terms for their executive level. So we've used the terms that we use in our agency, and that's director, deputy director, or assistant director. Some agencies use the term secretary, some use chief deputy, those types of things. So they just, that higher level leadership is what we're looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And there is additional desired experience for the individuals that you can find in Exhibit D of the procurement, and that Exhibit D is only a 2-page document.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Kate.
Sorry, I've got lots of questions here. I assume the preference is given to Washington State small business or veteran-owned businesses. Am I understanding that correctly, that the top rated in those categories will go through the final consideration?
Yeah, so our procurement guidelines and requirements have changed in the last year or so. So the current requirement, because this is less than $150,000 procurement, is that we'll review all proposals, but what we're required to do is move forward the top scored small business or veteran-owned businesses, unless there aren't any that are responsive. And if in that case, then we would just take the top however many that the scoring team wants to move forward with for interviews. And that is a procurement requirement. That is not discretionary for us.
Great, thank you. And I assume
Yeah.
that is a Washington State certified small business. You wouldn't take certifications from, for example, Oregon.
You would have to get your certification, but let me check something really quick. Because this isn't a statewide contract, I believe we have the discretion to have you self-certify, but I want to make sure that that is the case. Give me a moment.
Thank you.
Good questions. What I'm looking at is the bidder profile, which is Exhibit B, which is required to be submitted as part of a proposal. And there is a self-certification piece in there about a small business that has to be responded to.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a question in chat. Is this a fixed budget or is there a window for extension depending on the project? So the cost proposal is, we recognize that different recruiting firms have different pricing proposals. So we have attempted to adjust for those in our cost submittal document. So it is not a fixed budget per se. We provided the current salary for the deputy director. And there's some guidelines about submitting your cost proposal, because we understand that, you know, some firms charge based on a percentage of final salary. Some may have, you know, fees for deliverables, those types of things. So we've asked you to provide all of that detail for scoring purposes. Our scoring criteria is listed in the proposal document itself. Because of the variability of the costs, not all costs will be calculated to provide a scoring on the cost proposal. Does that answer your question? I'll let you answer in chat. Tom, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to clarify, for examples of prior work, besides state agencies, can we give examples of executive placement for Washington state cities, counties, or other government agencies?
Yes, I'm bringing that back up. So yes, the first public sector recruitment, that would be city, state, local. The desired is with state agencies. Yes.
That helps. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Just want to give a couple more minutes in case you guys think of additional questions. Question in chat. Will the reference check be notified to the vendor agency prior or during the phase? I interpret that to mean, will you know we're doing reference checks prior to us conducting them? Is that a correct interpretation of that question? Yeah. I don't think we had contemplated that. Lisa, do you have any concerns if we let vendors know we were going to do reference checks? That's the final stage for the analysis post-interview.
I don't think I have any concerns with that.
So yes, we can certainly do that. We can send notification, and it would be only, you know, those vendors that we interviewed. The final stage the part of that would be reference checking. So we can send that notification, yes. If there's no other questions at this time, I would like to respect your time and give a little bit back to your day. A reminder that you can submit questions to contracting@wsgc.wa.gov. Questions are due by 11:59 p.m. on August 5th. So if you think of anything between now and then, please feel free to send those. Again, we will be publishing this slide deck with a link to this recording, both in WEBS and on our website. So thank you for your time and your interest in our procurement. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you go.
Well, that was not too bad.
Just